So yeah, my question was in the email, and it's just I sent you the video, Cindy, of Renee and our cat Poppy interacting, and
Oh,
I've never
so you're
seen.
talking about the one that where you wanted to know if it was guardian behavior or what I thought of the behavior. Is that the video you're thinking of?
Yeah, just
Okay.
because I'm just more learning about her, and part of what I'm doing is just trying to understand Renee more, and then part of it too is kind of for myself filing away. These are behaviors I would want to see in future kind of LGD
Well,
dog.
and that's a different question than is it an LGD behavior, and it's a
Okay.
cleaner reason. So if you're and you again, you're very good at that and very aware of that. You're looking at what's in front of you and what you want more of and less of, and how can you support more of and get less of, and also what drives the behavior. And
Mhm.
with your dog as a mixed kind of a bag of tricks dog, I can be less solid about what drives the behavior
Yeah.
but not less solid about how to get more of it.
Okay.
And you're good at that also. And one of the things that you are oh so good at, and what I want to write about you and what we talked about is that the most beautiful LGD training is what you described with the water, where you stand back and you watch her make the decisions, you watch it all play out, you don't make it about you, you don't try to change anything, and then you look back at yourself and think, how can I support her getting more of it?
Mm.
That is beautiful, flawless training, and it doesn't meet the model that most people think of when they think of training. When you say training, it's that the person's going to change the dog's behavior. And supporting an LGD to make good decisions is just what you did, which is making sure that the environment supports the dog in making those good decisions and then thinking about how you can get more of them. Um,
Mhm.
and that's a hard one to put in words, but you did it really well. And you gave me an opportunity.
Oh,
So,
that's good. I just kind of wing it. I just do what's like intuitive and what seems to work. A lot of what I do is just with my chickens too, is just stand back and just watch and
well,
just
and
see.
and as I've said, when I set out for this formal behavioral science education, what I found out was a lot of the explanations for why the choices I've been making were good or bad, worked or didn't. So you come to it with some big internal strengths, and being a good observer and being someone who's willing to be creative and change your own behavior on a dime is part of what makes the potential for someone to become a very skillful trainer.
Oh,
If you need
awesome.
to be
Yeah.
right all the time, if you need to be directing, if you see yourself as the pinnacle and the dog is none of that's going to work real well for a dog. And so with someone like you and a lot of people that are in this course, um, identifying some of those points of brilliance and why they are, and like that talk that Kim and I had about the goat that's or the dog that swiped the goat, you can grab those examples, you can teach from it, and you put a mental picture in somebody's head, and it's like, oh yeah, that's that. And actually, it's not that hard. Um, so she's doing she's doing a bunch of behaviors that make her have a great quality of life, a very predictable, valuable, lovely animal that improves the quality of your life greatly.
Mhm.
And whether so one of the things about is it guardian behavior, um, you have to have the caveat that I know a lot about what guarding posture is for a Maremma. I know a
Mhm.
fair amount of what guarding posture is for a Great Pyrenees. I know a lot less about what the guarding posture is going to be for these little Sharplana whatevers that just came home, or the Akbash dog that's out here. What I've observed in him is he's very, very high. He's looking elsewhere. And she does a lot of that. She walks
Mhm.
around and she's very aware of her property and she's managing
Yeah.
her property, but a Maremma that was working would have its nose down and its tail up. She has her head up. She's not flumming her lips back away the way that a Great Pyrenees does. She's not as high, as focused, as looking over yonder 2 mile hill. She's more localized kind of a guardian, and I see that in this Akposh guy here too. So it's really interesting to me to look at guarding posture for these different breeds. But the truth is, you got to see a lot of dogs
Yeah.
in a way that it actually lines up to a science kind of a, deduced thing. But in living with the dog, you want to do just what you're doing, which is admire her brilliant places and tweak them a little bit so she's all brilliant places. And then it looks like the dog was just so easy. And you have a companion dog, LGD breed, that many people fail with. And if they came at it the way you do, those dogs would be successful. It's not the dogs. And like with Billy and the Colorado Mountain Dogs and my sensitivity to that breed, it's not the dog. And if you came into it, you threw breed out of it because they're a mixed, they're a mutt is what they are. And you just dealt with the dog in front of you piece by piece by piece. That's great. You have every reason to be successful. And if more people understood how to do what you do, a lot of those rescue dogs would die of old age, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I was wondering that because like we did the DNA test and I know all the breeds they think she is. And some of them I definitely agree with. Some of them I'm kind of like, but at some point, and my husband John and I were talking about this, it's like, at what point does it stop being helpful knowing the breed and trying to focus on that? And when you just need to be like, this is the dog in front of me, and just work with that.
You're already there.
Yeah.
So I really feel strongly about DNA typing with someone who has a dog that they're really trying to get to a place where that dog is trustworthy with livestock. Because if there's some prey drive stuff in there, a lot of what can happen is the dog is wrong, and I hate that the owner is lacking skill. And then the owner goes on Facebook and they say, do this, this, and this. And then half of that stuff's going to make it worse anyway. Meanwhile, the owner is really struggling. They love the dog. They want everything to be okay. Nothing's working. They're getting all this conflict. And so if you do like Atlas, yeah, I learned a lot from that dog. He was I watched him be in a pasture with sheep one day, and these are sheep that wouldn't run away from him, and he had somebody else out there with him that was a really solid dog, and I watched him move around out there, and I remember the moment that it clicked in that he had companion dog breeding when I had been wondering about it, but I wasn't sure. And what he did was, from a distance, he put eye on those sheep. Now, those two sheep, I have a friend that calls them my comatose sheep because they're too fat to care about anything, and they're ancient and they just walk and they hardly ever will do anything else, which makes them good puppy trainer dogs or goat or sheep, whatever. But he was like 30 feet from them. He put eye on them. They felt it. They looked back at him, and then they started walking, and he walked with them. And he didn't close distance, and he didn't speed up, and he didn't slow down. And those sheep would look back at him and they'd still feel it. And with his eye, he moved them around in that field for like 5 minutes. He didn't stop, and it was too hot. They would have, and I realized that it was very much with intent that he was just moving them. So at that point, stop trying to expect that dog not to move the livestock around. Instead, give him something that he can really fly with. And so that's the kind of place where it matters. So when I saw that, I got a hold of his owner and I said, we need to shift our expectations. We need to really build a dog that can be in many different kinds of environmental situations, can be safe with lots of strangers, can be in buildings, in places, upstairs, all these things that pet dogs may need to have as big skills, and less about the bonding with livestock thing, because he cared about the livestock, but they didn't like him for it. And that was unlikely to change. So that shifted. That was like, okay, we adjust, we let go of this dream, and we make it a win over here. And he was never a lesser dog for his owner, and he is a super successful dog now, and it made everything easier. And she'd been feeling like she'd done everything wrong, obviously, because he was doing that. So that's why. So you already have that information. And what you really need is train the dog in front of you and figure out what motivates the dog in front of you. And that's one dog, one-on-one. You're already there.
Yeah.
But you are a real example. You raise the bar and you kind of show how for people that are interested in taking on these crossbred dogs. and creating as much success for the dogs and themselves as they can, given the parameters that they're dealing with. And that's a hard thing to describe to people, but you're walking it and you're doing it beautifully.
Thank you. That I I care about all my animals very much. So I try really hard. It helps to hear that feedback. Because a lot of time I'm just like, well, let's try this and see what happens.
But that's the thing, and love is not enough. The people that
Yeah.
I have met that have made the decision to euthanize dogs, myself included, they love their dogs. They'd have done anything in the world to make that reality something else if they'd known how. But it has to be that you are pushed to care, but that you take action based on education.
Mhm.
And observational skills are one of the biggest pieces needed with LGDs, because you have to be able to read a dog that's more engaged in the environment than they are in you, more variables than a companion dog has. You have to be faster at it, because 3 reps with an LGD may be an established behavior. 3 reps with a companion dog may not be on the radar.
Mhm.
You know, so those are the key pieces.
Yeah. And the other thing, that's all very, very helpful. The other thing, just to have someone be like, oh, you're doing an okay job, it's really nice.
Well,
What
and
I've noticed,
it's real. I don't ever tell people that if I don't mean it.
yeah.
You know, but a lot of people are so introspective and responsible that they see more of the struggles and less of the wins. And I mean, it just, and I've been in those shoes. Anne Marie, bye. Thanks for being here. Um, so as with positive reinforcement training with dogs, you want to identify the wins and go with more of them. And if you don't identify them, you don't see them as things to keep doing. So for me to show people, these are your wins. These are what I see based on my experience in the bigger picture. These are your zero in, drill down places.
Yeah.
Part of my job.
Yeah. Okay. But part of the cat question, because we just have the
Hold on a
chicken.
sec. Bing, what's up?
I'm gonna go, but I just wanted to say something to both you, Cindy and Ellie. You know, I come onto these calls expecting to learn about how to support my dogs, but I'm simultaneously getting lessons about how to be a better parent to human children.
Yeah.
And almost everything, almost literally, every sentence that both of you just said, if I just replace the word dog with child, it's pretty powerful stuff. So thank you both, and I've got to run, but I really appreciate this. This has actually been a really wonderful conversation. So
Thanks for tossing us a cookie. I appreciate it.
That one was chicken.
Chicken. All right. All right. Thank you, Bing. See you later.
Thank you.
When I first met Bing and he hadn't decided to do the course yet, I don't think he reached out to me for private training. And I'm going to leave this I'm looking at the recording. I'm going to leave it in it. He reached out and he was looking for some initial pointers, and I gave him some pointers, and he emailed me back like pretty quickly. And he said, I deserve chicken. I did it. And I thought, this man's going to be fun. And he is, and it went from there. But that was cool.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah,
I worried about in talking with you about that. Some people think that if you say it's not LGD behavior, that it's a lesser dog or a demeaning comment. You know, or people think when I say pet dog or LGD, that pet dog is the demeaning, you know, the lesser portion. And that's not it at all. It's like, you know, positive reinforcement isn't good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just behavior.
Yeah. No, and I didn't think that's what you meant. But what I'm starting to see now, because she is 4.5 months old, 20 weeks old, and I always kind of like to check in, because I think I said on last week's one Zoom call, it's like I don't want to try to make her something into that she isn't, into something that she is not. But then I also don't want to go against something that she naturally has. And it's what I'm trying to kind of see, or what I'm seeing in her is some changes with, like, does she prefer to be with people, or does she want to be with Poppy? And we don't have, you know, goats. To be super honest, if it was up to me, we'd already have goats. I really wanted goats, but that's okay. And what I'm noticing is like if I'm in the room, she likes kind of being near, but she's not a Velcro dog. And that was something we looked for temperament wise. We wanted a puppy who was cool, just chilling. She didn't need to always be with people. And then
you can turn her into a Velcro dog, so don't.
yeah.
I watched somebody build separation anxiety into a working dog that was 8 months old when I placed her. So the fact that you're looking at it and you're setting up situations where she doesn't feel that way is very good preemptive. And that's one of the things that happens with the blended dog situation is people aren't watching for that and changing it enough that the dog is making the decision to leave the person, not that the dog is put somewhere else. So
Yeah.
again, good for you. And it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks with these dogs kept that way.
Yeah. And what we are finding, same with my husband, is if Poppy's in the room, like that's it. We don't exist anymore. Like Renee just wants to lay by Poppy and smell Poppy. And then even if it can be like 110 degrees out and Poppy's inside outside, we live by some busy roads. So you want to talk about like prey drive hunting skills. She's incredibly natural. We adopted her in January of this year. She came from a hoarding situation in California. She's mainly with just like 20 other cats in like a small room. And she's mainly Oriental short hair. It sounded to me like a backyard breeder kind of
Okay,
thing.
stay on point though, because my goal is to have a shorter Zoom
Okay.
contribution. So,
I'm really big on context.
well, no, that's fine. And we could make it not part of the recording, but I'm afraid that
Okay.
people are going to look at those things and say 2 hours, I don't have time for that and not
Yeah.
look at them. So with Poppy, she's a good port in a storm for you because she lets that LGD connection be made, social connection and nurturing of something that she can own. If without Poppy, she might own only you, and that
Yeah.
can become really disproportionate. And if Poppy said no, she might learn to chase cats because she still has the social needs. So you should kiss Poppy's toes for being such a good puppy trainer support.
Yeah.
And she's also a much safer cat because of it. I mean, talk about somebody having your back, that dog would take out the world for her. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that are working for you that you have in the mix that you need to have.
Yeah.
So
I had wondered, like, if we only having the chickens and then like Poppy and us, if there was like a need in Renee that we weren't meeting, that having like goats or sheep would meet for her.
it would be better for her to have
Yeah.
a couple of those little hoofed creatures if you could figure out how to do it. And I will tell you that it would not be hard.
Yeah.
It checks off the boxes, and in the early time frame, you don't have an ability to go back and wish that you had. You see a deficit in a dog and you don't quite know why. And one of the places that I go with it is this could have been a contributing factor. So, like I've told Bing to go buy a couple of sheep, even if you don't keep them forever, because the dogs need it as part of the anchor and part of how they understand their world. But you've been through this before, and you know how to do a really good job at this. There's a blog post that I wrote called "A Trained Fit or a Natural Fit." Have you seen that?
No.
I need to send that to you. So a natural fit is an LGD with a sheep ranch. A trained fit is an LGD that needs to live in the city or has a physical issue and has to dial back or whatever. And the way to keep that animal mentally healthy is through participation of the owner on a continual, ongoing basis to meet the needs in a very purposeful way with that dog. That's a trained fit. And if you're willing to do a trained fit and you can make it work for a dog, that's fine. A lot of times people get a dog in a situation like that that's not a natural fit and they get tired of the training part and the dog falls apart. And that's a lot of what happens with the companion dog thing. So a trained fit is not wrong. It's more a responsibility for the person who put the dog in that situation.
Yeah.
So how much that's costing her, hard to say. Me being me and having seen over and over and over and over and over the value to these dogs of that, I would always throw that in, and if the dog in a month's time ignores the sheep, they can leave, but I would have answered my question. But
Mhm.
it's up to you.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's really my husband is the one who's concerned, but I'm the one who I work from home, do stuff from home, so I'm the one who takes care of everything. So I would have goats if I could. Even just
Goats are a hassle on a
Mm,
property, sheep are not. Goats
okay.
climb fences and get out and do things that might make your husband nuts. I used hair sheep primarily because they're just not smart and they're not industrious and they're very predictable. So I
Okay.
could
Do
count
you know
on
any sheep breeds that would do okay in Arizona heat? I know there's sheep ranchers here and goat
absolutely
ranchers.
hair sheep. Dorper
Okay.
Katahdins are the ones that I like. There's breeds that you don't want to do. So Dorper Katahdin, and if you remind me, I will put it in writing so that you can spell it. Those are heritage breed sheep. They're hair sheep. Their feet grow slowly. Their coats fall off on their own. They're disease resistant, long lived, steady, slow, predictable creatures. And they've been extremely valuable to me in my training with
Okay.
these
What was
guys.
that? What was that?
I add goats when I add complexity, and I add pigs for different reasons too, but the Dorper Katahdin sheep have been it. And there are hair sheep breeds that are like shot out of a cannon, fast and reactive, and you don't want them.
Yeah.
I will write it for you, and if I forget, remind me, because it'd be easier for me to spell it in writing than to just
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I think I just remembered one of the reasons we had neighbors who had goats. This is before John and I met, and he said they would scream. They would make these really weird noises, and I think that turned him off. But I think we've had neighbors with sheep, and they're very quiet. So
Goats kind of die for fun. They're harder to keep healthy. I
yeah.
do not have a history of losing livestock, and my goat learning curve was steep.
Okay.
And I thought that they were a lot like sheep, and they are not. So they're not necessarily to be avoided, but they're a step up in complexity from an owner standpoint as well as a dog.
Good to know. Yeah.
And
I was cool with sheep too, and I would be fine with just two. I don't even know the term like neutered males. That'd be totally cool. We have no desire to like breed if we don't have to. So
I tell people to go on Craigslist and buy cheap sheep. Hair sheep. They're worth it. Mine are all Craigslist sheep. They're worth their weight in gold to me many times over. I have sheep here that have helped me train hundreds of puppies. And I have trained them well, and I protect them well when I use them like this. Like, there are guarantees. I won't let anybody chase them. I won't leave them in a, all that stuff. And I've taught them to target, and that's very, very helpful. So it would not have to be expensive or difficult, and it is something that you could change and get rid of them if you chose to at whatever point. But I'll put it in. All right. I think
okay.
I think we're there. I appreciate all your geeky stuff. Don't dial it back. And when you get short answers from me, it's only time. It's not that I'm disinterested or trying to run you off or anything. It's having too many goals and tasks, like catching people up on all the foster dogs and all that stuff, that things people care about. And
Yeah.
I just run out of, and then I go down these tangents also. And I'm in this course right now, and that's a lot also.
Yeah.
You'll
Okay.
you'll like that one.
I know, I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's as good the second time because I see and hear different things. So, all right, I will let you go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.